Hello, New Hope family. Welcome to the Grow Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Strunz, and I'm thrilled to have Pastor Aaron with me today. We're dedicated to helping you take your next step in your relationship with Jesus. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back to the Grow Podcast. I'm so glad that you could join us today for episode 166. This week, we have a special episode. I just want to welcome Pastor Isaiah in with us. I haven't been able to sit with Pastor Isaiah yet. Isaiah, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Enjoying life.
Enjoying life?
Giants got to win on Sunday, so, you know.
Giants got to win.
Giants got to win.
And
loving life.
Daniel
Jones scored a touchdown.
Looked like a football player.
We love it.
We love it. So for those that might not be as familiar with what you do and who you are at New Hope, would you mind introducing yourself and where you're at? You have multiple titles and multiple roles, so fill us in.
A lot of full mouth words. So I'm the campus pastor at our New Hope Tioga campus. So I do pretty much everything, pastoral roles over there in Tioga. And then I'm also the the community engagement pastor. That's a lot of words. For the New Hope Network in general. So I get to do outreach events with Tioga, but also with Williston. If we do anything online, I get to do stuff with that too. So really cool stuff.
Very cool. So as the outreach pastor, you're in charge of a very big event upcoming. It's a Go event. And that's why we're here today. We're going to talk about going as a church. But the Go event is coming up. What is the heart of the church as you head into this Go event? And what is the event at hand?
Yeah. So the heart of the church really is, that's part of our mission, part of our core is to go and be the church. And we say it every week. But what does that mean? What does that look like? And so we're going out into our community in Williston and in Tioga, and we are going to just be the church to the community. And so we have, we'll be painting the house. We'll be going to Bethel Homes. We'll be painting Youth for Christ building. We'll just be cleaning up around the city. And the whole purpose behind it is giving back and showing what it is to be the church really to our community. And I also think personally, when you're going and serving, God does stuff to you too. And it's not just for our community, it's also for us, because that's part of how we're designed. So it's a really cool event, and it's one of the things I grew up doing at New Hope, and COVID slowed it down a little bit, and we're just getting back into the groove of being able to do this event again. So really exciting stuff.
Exactly. For you, New Hope family, I want to welcome you back into joining us. We're thrilled to have you be a part of this community, and we're hoping today that this podcast can help you grow deeper in your faith and to continue to help you go, grow, and give, right? Which we're talking about Go today, but we're really talking about in the sermon series currently that's called Code or Fire. Are you doing this in your relationship with Jesus for yourself and for your own benefit and for your own, person, or are you doing this for those that are around you also? And coat being, if you want to stay warm in the winter, you can put your coat on and stay warm. Or if you want to stay warm in the winter, you could light a fire, and multiple people can be warmed by a fire.
Yeah.
In a more silly note, it would be interesting if we tried to get multiple people into a coat. Bigger coats.
You try it.
You could try it. It doesn't. Yeah, I just think it would be a bad idea. It's just a bad idea. So we have Go, Grow, and Give as kind of our mission statement, vision statement, and in a very concise way. Let's start with a kind of a big question. What does it mean to go as a church? How would you define that? And is there anything that stood out to you as the outreach pastor that makes it important to go as a church in today's culture?
So I think just going as a church is really, each of us who calls ourselves Christian is really the church. And so if we confine ourselves to just this building, confine ourselves to these walls, lost people aren't going to be reached. And that's the heart of everything we do as Christians, is reaching lost people for the gospel, so that they can meet Jesus. And so part of going and being the church, part of leaving and doing stuff like this event is really showing people what it means to follow Jesus. It's showing people what it means to have that relationship. And it gets us in opportunities to have those conversations with people who are just like, why are you doing this? What's the purpose? What's the point? And we have a reason for doing it. We have a reason for going out. So that's the heart behind it. And what was your other question?
The second part is, why is that important in the current culture we have?
I think it's super important because of, honestly, partly just because of how a lot of people view the church. A lot of people think the church is a show or something just to do or to have fun doing. But there's more to being the church, and there's more to being a church into a culture that's kind of moving away from the church. And so I think it's such an important, it's an important thing to really show people what it actually means to follow Jesus. And like, there's just so much to it that if we're not going, it's the same as Aaron's message on Sunday. If we're going, it's like the come and see. Like, we have something that we want to show you, and the only way we can show you is by showing it to you, and so you can see what it means. So I think that's really the heart of, like, especially in this culture, is like, come and see what we have, because this could change everything, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I think going along with what Pastor Aaron said on Sunday when he's talking about the Great Commission, right? That what Jesus gave us a charge to go and do. When we're on mission with that, so we go and participate in an event like this, we grow.
Yeah.
So it's like a dual thing for us, right? We're growing. And so if we're going to go out, in your mind, if we're serving the community, how does serving the community connect with sharing the gospel? How does it, like, because we're trying to grow on this podcast right now, we're learning about going beyond being inwardly focused and being outwardly focused. And so as we grow, how is this going and serving connecting with the gospel?
I think it connects in a lot of ways. One, personally for you, like, when I first felt called to ministry, it was on a mission trip where I was serving, and throughout my life, just serving has shaped me into what I'm doing now. And that's growing up in the church and serving in the church and serving on mission trips, and even doing, we called it Faith in Action or Love Does. But it's the same event, like going to Salvation Army and throwing bales of clothes into a truck.
Yep.
Like, something about that shaped who I was and helped me grow my faith. So I think that's huge for us personally as Christians. But for the gospel, it's, one, just showing people a different side of the church that they don't get to see all the time, but also the conversations that you have just going out into your community. Like, there will be people we'll meet at Salvation Army or Bethel Homes or while we're cleaning on the streets of Williston that don't know who God is. Like, that's just the reality of it. And we have a unique opportunity because of what we're doing to be able to share them the gospel through our actions and through what we're doing with the church and with this event. And so it's really cool. Like, we've done car washes where we get to meet people throughout the day, and they're like, why are you doing this?
Yep.
And those conversations can lead to so much. And so I think it's huge for the gospel in that way too, because there's just all these conversations that we won't have unless we're out in the community doing things like this. So
That's so good. I think that the important takeaway for me on that is, unless I'm in the situation to get asked the question, why are you doing this? I'm not walking around and telling people like, hey, I'm being nice to you, just so you know, because the Holy Spirit's working in me. It would be very awkward to share that way.
Yeah.
It's much better to have somebody say, why would you show up and clean the ditch?
Yeah.
And you say, well, because God asks us to take care of what's in front of us, and this is important to us. And by the way, do you know who God is? It's much more natural to get a question than just go around and start with it.
When you're doing weird things, people are going to ask questions.
Yeah.
And I think part of being the church is sometimes doing weird things. Like, there's a lot of things that we do that's not normal to our culture, but it starts that questioning of like, what's different about these guys? So
Becoming comfortable with uncomfortable is a big part of our faith.
Yes.
I wish it wasn't. Because I like my coat. I decided, like, during this series of Coat or Fire, I like my coat, and sometimes I undo the buttons, but it has a pretty nice zipper too. And so like I have a lot of work to do when it comes to like letting my coat go. And one of them is being comfortable with uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge. Personal faith. We are each growing individually. I'm curious, in your experience, how has serving others impacted your relationship with Jesus when you and Jesus are spending time alone? Like what kind of personal impact has that had on you?
So how is impacting others impact me personally, basically? Yeah. I think there's been a lot of different ways and in different situations that I've been in my life. But I did one missions trip where it was like literally all we were doing was throwing an English camp. Like that's all we were doing. But being able to talk to those kids who didn't know if they ever had anyone who cared about them impacted me in a huge way, because it's like I have so many people and like a God that cares about me that these guys don't know. And so personally, that has changed like a lot of my focus on how I interact with people in general, because it's like every conversation I have might be the last opportunity I have to share the gospel with this person. And I had that through a friend who committed suicide too, who grew up in the church, grew up around the church, but never felt like anyone loved him. And it was like, how did the church miss this person? And I think for me personally, like serving in that way is like, this is my opportunity that I get to have to not miss this person for the gospel, to not miss this person. And so for me personally, it was like, it shaped how I treat people, how I care about people, how I love people and show my love to people, because of the serving and just the situations I was in to talk to the people that just didn't have what I have. And I'm like, I know who can give that to you. Like, so yeah, I think just, it has shaped almost everything about who I am through serving other people, which is really cool. Yeah, that's why I'm here. Really, it's really why I'm here. So,
how has it, is there any additional ways it's affected your relationship to God? Like between you and God, has it done anything there?
I think it's deepened the connection to him, because like we're all called to live in his footsteps. We're called to live like him. And if you just look at how Jesus served, how Jesus served all the people who didn't deserve it, weren't worthy of it. And I think just through my serving, I was able to more deeply understand how Jesus served and how he wired us to care about people and how to love people and show our love to people. And I think it just deepens that connection when you build that relationship and start understanding the personality of Jesus more. You grow deeper in connection with him. And so I think it's really deepened that connection of like, oh, this is who you are. Like, I understand who you are through like stuff like this. It really does strengthen that just connection with Jesus.
I can agree with that. Being overseas, or even just, I helped rebuild a church in Kentucky one time, just simple stuff sometimes. Sometimes literally picking up trash in a parking lot. It doesn't have to be that big of a deal. Just makes you understand, like, the more I participate in this, the more I understand about humility, and the more I understand about humility, the more I understand Jesus. Like, he gave it all away. This specific week, we're going out and doing this event to serve in Tioga and in Williston. Why is this important for our church body? Like, our people to get out and, including myself, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Like, why is it important for me to get out and go do this? Why is it a big one for us as a church? I guess, is there an aspect of it that we would be missing as a church if we didn't go out and serve? Like, why is it so valuable?
I think there's a few reasons why. One of the big reasons is when I can't remember the exact verse in Proverbs, but as iron sharpens iron, we sharpen each other. Right. And I think when you're serving with the body of believers, like when your church is all going out and all has the same goal, you sharpen each other. You grow deeper relationships through that, that you might not have just coming on a Sunday morning, where you come in, you're like, football Sunday starting, I'm hungry, like I'm going to get out of church. Right. There's connections that you have that are so much more deeper especially when you're serving with other people. So I think it strengthens the church in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it also, I think it shows the church, one, that we are what we say we are too. If we say we're a church that goes and we're not going, I think that's an issue, right?
Right.
And so I think it also shows like this is what we are, who we are. And so it gives people more of an opportunity too to just see like this is the church. This is what the church looks like. This is what the active church looks like. And so I think it has a bunch of strengthening aspects to the community of the church itself. So if that answers your question.
No, for sure. I think there's an aspect of like God stories, if we're going to call them that, where like as a group we go and experience God together, that you can't, there's no making that up or manufacturing that.
Yeah.
It just happens. So if you and I go on a trip together and we go and serve together and we both meet the same kid and see what God does in their life and we share that experience together, the advancement is a multiplication of what's happening in our growth and in the growth of our church. If 15 of us go and experience that and we all grow in our trust of God, we all grow in what we believe God can do, it just advances things in a way that are very unique. And yeah, you can't fake them.
And it lasts.
Right.
It's something that lasts too, which is huge. I think the longer something can last that is strengthening to you, it's just so, and it's something you can't manufacture. It's something that you have to actively be doing to have happen. So it's really cool.
And I think some of those things you can get from like a small group and some of those things you can get from other things, but it's like a acceleration course.
Yeah.
I really do think it's that. It's like, hey, do we want to all go get an experience together? Do we all want to see God do something cool together? Like serving in a project together is one of those ways to create those memories. I think that's true. And so I think part of it is, as New Hope, we want to be, I think, what's known as a missional community. We want to be on mission together, right? And that's part of the going lifestyle, if we wanted to like give it a right. We want to be fire starters in the spiritual, in a good way. So in your experience, you come home from these types of things. How can you keep that going where you're like transitioning it into more of an everyday attitude or an everyday, like you're actually growing in it?
Yeah, I think it's really easy. I'm trying to remember the term. We have a term for like when you leave youth camp, basically like you're on fire for God, but then what happens when you get back to the real world?
Right.
There's things that you have to do when you're back in the real world. Like something impactful happens in your life during, maybe you're serving on an event, you have a story that now you have connection with people. That's something you need to keep going. It's not something you can forget about. So it's like, make what you did like a routine in your daily life. Like serving shouldn't be something that just happens once a year. That's one of the reasons why for a little while we moved away from this event. Right. Was because we wanted to make it establish something, so we were doing something each month. Because that should be our routine. We should be serving God and serving our community in a way that is more than just one-time event. And so, yes, the impact can be huge for a one-time event, but it's like, now let's make that a routine. Let's make that a part of our daily life. Let's make that something that we want to focus on is going. Like if we want to go, what are we doing to do that? And that can look like so many different things. That could look like picking up your kids from school and just having those conversations with parents as you leave. Like there's so many ways you can go and be the church that are so impactful. And an event like this, like you said, accelerates that. And now let's keep that going. Let's keep that momentum going. Yeah. Like how are we making that a daily routine, not just a one-time or one-year thing? Like, so yeah, it really just becomes like that needs to become a part of your DNA. Like if it's important to you, make it important to you. Like make it a non-negotiable in your life. Like I think that's honestly what you have to do to continue that kind of accelerated fire. So.
Right. I think about like the language Jesus uses, as you go, make disciples. And I think sometimes we think that it has to be something big. It has to be something like similar to what you're saying, like going to Bethel and having some kind of event or something like that. But you can really go to Bethel every single week and sit down with somebody.
They would love for you to be there as many times a week as you could be. Yeah, they would love that.
And so if you go to that event, you think, man, I could really do something with this. people could use the encouragement. People could use the conversation, sitting down and visiting them. Schools need volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's always something to go in. Youth for Christ in Tioga needs volunteers.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I feel like self-promoting there a little bit, but it's true though. There's the opportunities are not lacking.
Yeah.
If we are willing and we really get a heart for it, I think there's some practical steps that you could take to engage in your community and make it long term.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't want people to go into this event and come home and say, wow, what a good job, Adam.
Yeah, can't wait till next year.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's opportunities. There's even opportunities within our own building
Mm-hmm.
to serve one another, to serve kids, to serve, in the music team. I'm not part of that team, as you can tell.
They can be a part of the Be the Church team, you know?
Yeah, the Be the
help
Church
plan
team.
next year.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of opportunities. I think that there's a part of discipleship
Mm-hmm.
that we avoid when it comes to us personally growing. And I think we're talking about that as a church right now, which is when all's said and done, how you love people, the greatest commandment, love the Lord your God, and then love your neighbor as yourself. And how you would rate yourself on loving your neighbor as yourself is a big indicator on how healthy you are as a Christian.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you would like to give now, like as an encouragement to the people who are listening, like, it really is important to love one another, and just any encouragements around that idea.
Sorry, I'm like trying to put
Yeah.
your question into an answer.
It's a tough one because I'm trying to even clarify my question, which
Yeah.
is, how do we love others the way we love ourselves and make that a part of our life? Because that's really what we're getting down to.
Yeah, I think it's hard for us because it's so easy to just think about ourselves or think about the close, like this is our group. So these are the people I love. These are the people I care about. And I think it's uncomfortable to get out of that. Like we were talking about, it's uncomfortable to not wear a coat
Right.
and have to be around a fire. Like it's uncomfortable because your coat, is going to warm you.
Yeah.
And I think because we are all called to go and make disciples. We're all called in Matthew. I hope I get this reference right. It's Matthew 20. Jesus is talking to the Sadducees, and he's like, they're trying to trick him, and they're like, what's the most important commandment? And he said, love God and love your neighbors. Those are the two most important commandments, and everything else falls if those two aren't being done. And I don't think we realize that all the time. Like nothing else that we do, no matter how perfect we are, no matter how perfect we think we can be, if we don't love others, we're missing out on the two most important things that Jesus taught us. And I think it really does takes time of conditioning yourself to notice people, conditioning yourself. And like events like this, again, accelerates that because you're like, oh, now I notice a need that I didn't realize was there before.
Yep.
But it's what do you do with that now that you notice it? Are you going to really pursue God in that? And it's something that you need to take to God and be like, hey, this is where I need to work on. Like I need to work on loving others.
Yeah.
Because I don't see others. Like it's a really easy thing to miss other people. And that's something you need to take to God and again, make it a non-negotiable in your day to see other people. Like, because if we miss that, we're missing one of the most important things that we are taught as Christians. So I really do think it's something, it's a muscle that you need to flex over and over and over to strengthen and grow. Otherwise, it's so easy to just get into a routine and miss out on it. So I think I'm answering your question. Hopefully.
You definitely are. You definitely are. I think that you nailed it. I appreciate you sharing your heart on that though, because it's hard to say out loud, I don't notice other people. I'm busy. I'm walking past people that have needs. I'm walking past people that are hurting. I'm walking past people that are wounded, and I need to get God's eyes on it. And if I don't, I'm not living out the greatest commandment.
Yeah.
At least that's what I heard you telling me.
Well, it's something I struggle with. And so it's something I had to make something I noticed. And like, if you knew me 6-7 years ago, I'm completely different than I am now because of God continuing to, through the struggles, through the hurt, through the pain, showing me this is how you're supposed to be the church. Like, this is how you're supposed to live. And that's one of the verses that I have I have the whole passage memorized because it shaped who I am and how I live. And I think it's so important for us to focus on it because it's so easy for us to miss that. Like, it really is. So, yeah.
Oh, man. Well, that's really amazing. It's clear that serving people and loving people is something we can't just do occasionally. I definitely hear you saying that. It has to become a core part of who we are as Christians, and it's something that needs to grow in us. I want to grow in it. It's just so much easier for me just to serve myself.
Yeah. So comfortable.
So comfortable. So, I used to own a really nice fur-lined coat that was corduroy on the outside, like a rancher's coat.
Oh, boy.
I loved it. That was so comfortable. That's much more comfortable than loving people that God is asking me to see. Because, and I'll say it this way, and I think I'll close with this. When he really asks me to see people, you're seeing people that have junk in their lives because you have junk in your life. And when you throw a bunch of junk together, it's messy. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to practice being messy Christians who have a messy church, because that's what it takes to love people who God is calling into relationship with him, it's not comfortable and it's not easy, but it is necessary. And I think it's the amazing opportunity that God is putting in front of New Hope is to love hurting people and serve a community that needs God's love to be poured out into it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really what we're talking about is we're going to go and be a church that goes because there's people who are far from God, who have no relationship with him, and whose eternity is going to be apart from him. And as we go, we can invite them into, hey, God is doing this for me. And if we can do that well, and give them a chance to respond.
And I think one of the other really cool things for, like, one, just doing it as a church, two, is like your story is different than my story.
Yep.
So you're going to connect with someone that I have never would be able to connect with. And I'm going to connect with people that you're not able to connect with. And it's like when that feathers out, like we're reaching all these people that maybe if I would have met them, there would have been no connection.
Right.
But you're like, we're best friends now. And I can now show him the gospel because of that. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really cool when you have the body doing that, like what you can see happen from that is incredible.
It's incredible. Oh, man, I think we'll close on that. Thank you for joining us again, New Hope family. This has been episode 166. Plug in on a project on Sunday. We want to see you. We want to participate with you. I might have to go and paint in Tioga just so I can see a building that I signed the lease on. I haven't visited yet.
Cool.
That'd be pretty cool if I could actually go and be a part of my own work. Remember this week, even beginning now, even today, just take Christ's love where you go and be that witness to the world. Just share about simply what God has done for you and invite people to join in on that. Watch Pastor Aaron's sermon from this week. This should be in the show notes below. Thanks for joining us once again, and be blessed.